So today we are going to cover about more technically for your SLR. We are going to learn about how to structure your SLR, the writing process, and also the challenges while writing. And I will teach you how to revise and edit your SLR. And also you should learn about the citation and referencing, especially for literature review. And also I think, quite important topic that you should know is about the plagiarism, especially for not only for your research, but for your publication or your write-up. Okay. Okay, first we learn about how to structure your article. So you should know that you do not have to wait until you gather all your data that you needed for your literature review. You can start your writing as soon as you go through your literature search while you're doing your paper searching. Okay, so you can start by whenever you have an idea or you find a good sentence that you can start with, you can always jot down or go to your laptop and start writing. Okay, that is called drafting, not finalizing your SLR. Okay, because you already learned how to do a literature search and sorry, excuse me, wait. Okay. Okay. So you already know how to extract data. Now you have the data, the finding, the point that you want to put into your literature review. Now, how to start writing? Actually, how to start structuring your literature review? Which one to start first? Okay. So you should know that there is no ideal structure for your literature review. It depends on how you're going to structure your literature review. What is your point of view? And most important thing, what is your supervisor's preference? Okay, so for standalone literature review, for example, the one that I assigned you, that is the standalone literature review. You should know how to structure your own literature review based on your point of view, based on your understanding, based on your study design or a review that you want to construct. But as for literature review, which is part of your thesis or your dissertation, you need to always consult with your supervisor how you are going to structure it or organize it. Okay, so your supervisor knows well. Okay, so you need to consider, for example, you want to organize your literature review like chronologically, thematically, or you want to develop an ideas, or combination of either one. And in your literature review, you have to make sure that you always explain your structure for your reader and have a clear narrative or clear story. You cannot jump from one point to one point without, interconnecting those points together. Okay. Okay. I think you already know about the Imbrad model. In Imbrad model, the structure, the research paper structure include the abstract, the introduction, the main body usually comprises of introduction, method, result, and also discussion or conclusion as well, and also the referencing. Okay, as for systematic review, the introduction usually present the problem and certain issue dealt in the review article. Basically, talking or explaining about the whole review, your write-up. Okay. And as for method, usually describe the research and evaluation process, also specifies the number of studies that is evaluated. And as for result, describe the quality outcomes of the selected studies, for example, and then you come with the discussion or conclusion to summarize the result, limitation, and outcomes, or maybe future research or your recommendation, right? Okay, that is the structure. So which one to start first? So you last week you already know how to extract new data, summarize, and then you already have your data. Okay, like this one below. The data could be in a form of figures, table, or it could be in sentences. Whenever you whichever you want to present it. So your data comes first. Okay, so you work on your data first, and then you move to explain about the method, the result, the finding, or discussion as well. And then after you finish with this, you can do your conclusion about your literature review, about the method, result, or the one that you already discussed in your main body. And then you can jump into doing introduction. Okay, and then for standalone literature review, it will have the title, abstract, and also the keywords if necessary. But for part literature review, which part of the dissertation or thesis or GRP, we do not have the abstract or keywords or the title. Title usually is the whole for the project. Okay, not part of the literature review. Okay, you can start from here and then go up here. Okay, so how to generate an effective systematic literature review body structure. So as for introduction, as I mentioned, it is an overview of the topic that you interest, along with the objective and also some of the part of the literature review. And the main body usually comprises of critical analysis, evaluation of topical relevant research data or findings that you can break into different subheadings. And as a conclusion, you can summarize the key point from your whole review. And if you want to relate with the word count, introduction usually about 10% of the total word count, and main body about 80 to 85%, and the conclusion usually 5 to 10% of the total word count. Okay, so as I mentioned, it is usually easier to write the introduction after the main body because you already know, you already have your broad knowledge or understanding of facts that are well backed up and widely accepted by referring to other research. And you can highlight the importance of the review. Are you assessing potential clinical relevance? So you can describe the importance of that relate to the clinical relevance, and what is your gap in research area? Are you studying about the new things, the novel thing? Okay, is that your gap, or you study about you are reviewing about new perspective? So you include that in your introduction. Okay, so what is the core aim of the review? To compare or contrast conflicting evidence or to identify and examine aspect of the topic. Tell your reader what you are going to talk about and list the topic in order, like from the broad to the specific one. Okay. So this is an example for introduction. For standalone literature review, this is quite a good example of introduction. As for your DRP or dissertation, the introduction may be in terms of word count, maybe more. Okay, so this one I just want to put an example here. So the first part, this author addressed the explanation about the topics, everything that he want to say that is related to a previous study, he already explained. And most important thing is to address your question or gaps or your perspective in of your review. For example, here, few studies directly address the question: do non-human primates understand the intention of others? So this is actually the research question for this review. Okay, so let's jump into the main body. Okay, I think the most important structure in your literature review is the main body. We call it as a main body. It focus on data because we present it in a form of the result and discussion. Okay, usually it involves the scientific facts that related to the paper or the publication that you included in this literature review. Okay, so the main thing in the main body that you should know is to tackle one key point per paragraph as not to overwhelm the reader. So you should know how to do effective paragraphing, where paragraph related with each other. Even if it is not related, like necessary, I think it's very interesting if you can develop a diagram, figure, or tables from your paper that you want to review. I mean, the paper that you already selected. Let's say you already selected like 20 papers. From 5 papers, there are relation in terms of the findings, and then you generate a table of figures that can relate all those findings from that paper in one table or one figure or diagrams, like I show you last week, right? Okay, so I summarize how to tackle 2 or 3 key points per section. So you are going to have your introduction, which is about 10% of your count word. So this is, you should explain from the specific to broad, right? Because you're going to explain about the whole story of your review. Okay. Okay, excuse me. I'm sorry for the interruption. Okay, so now you can divide the body into different sections. Like I put here section 1, 2, and 3. And this actually, this is not paragraph, but it is more um, to reflect your topic. Like you want to get a narrow topic, right? You have a broad topic and then you want to narrow it. So you have different types of topic that you want to discuss. Okay, so you have like section 1, different subpoint or different subheading means different paragraph. So one section, let's say you have 3 subheadings, like 3 paragraph. That this one you should know how to connect it each other, or if is the point is not related or interrelated, you have to know how to do an effective transition, like from one subpoint, one subheading to another subheading to another paragraph, for example. So I put it here. You could pick, like you want to do like 3 sections, or you want to divide the section for methodology, research, or discussion. Depends on how you're going to structure your literature review. Okay, and then you have your conclusion. Okay. Okay, what does it mean by 1 key point per paragraph? So the first, in order to construct a very good paragraph, you need to practice to use these 3 points in your write-up. Okay, the first one, you need to have your topic sentence. You should start each topic or paragraph with a strong sentence introducing your key point, and then you're going to have your supporting sentence. Data from previous findings, reference, and you can use your linker words. I will introduce what is the linker words to introduce similar point or contrast point, and you could use opposing data also should be considered. That's not necessarily discuss about the positive point of view in your write-up. You can also pick other, opposing data. I mean, to further support your topic. Okay, and then you can have your concluding sentence, I think the first or two sentence in your paragraph should include the summary sentence. Okay, and why the information that you provide in that paragraph is relevant, and also may link to the following paragraph to have a very good transition from one paragraph to another paragraph. So you should remember these 3 points: the topic sentence, the discussion of topic, and also the closing sentence. Okay, this one I pick an example which has effective paragraphing and also subheading. So this one, the include the main body to explain, okay, about different types of topic that the author pick review. Okay. This really can see really hear me clearly because it said that here the line is not stable. Can someone answer?
Yes, tersangkut clear, tersangkut.
No, doktor, dia sangkut-sangkut.
Aku takut. Sekejap
Doktor sangkut.
Okay, sekejap Okay, let me know if the line is not clear in the chat box if you cannot turn on your mic. So now can you hear me clearly?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you so much. I don't want you miss the important things that I want to, to show in this lecture. If you cannot hear clearly, you just tell me and I'll try to find which area in this house have, strong signal because we have like heavy raining this morning. Okay, should I continue? Can I continue?
Yes.
Yes,
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So if you look at this paragraph, it has standalone topic sentence in a first, first 1, 2, 3 sentence. The first 3 sentence, it describes the topic sentence. And then it has the discussion of the topic that related to interleukin. Maybe you can refer to other previous research or paper that you already pick. And maybe here about the meta-analysis findings that the author did. So he explained about the meta-analysis finding as well. And the second one, last sentence is the closing sentence. For example, furthermore, many studies recruited participants from same center, giving rise to the potential selection bias, blah, 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 blah. So do not forget to include the closing sentence in each of the paragraph, especially when you do your thesis later, okay? Because in order for your reviewer or your supervisor to understand what you are actually explaining in your literature review, so you need to have this clear structure for your to be able to generate a very good paragraph. Okay. Okay, next. This is statement. So how to construct a very good sentence or statement in your paragraph. Okay, so the thesis statement, we call it, it's offer argument about the literature. It may include either of these or a combination of this point I include here. Argument and critical assessment of the literature. For example, one topic and then there is one claim. So you want to discuss how it is interrelated with each other, and also provide an overview of current scholarly conversation. And you can point out gaps or weakness in the literature, relate the literature to the larger aim of the study. So for example, maybe you will have a clear understanding from this example. Okay, for example here, in spite of these difficulties, we believe the pre-service elementary art teachers and classroom teachers need some knowledge of stage theories of children's development. Okay, so this is the suggestion. I mean, this is the argument that the author wants to elaborate in one paragraph, for example. And then after suggesting something, after suggesting one topic or argument, then goes to the review theories of the development of the children development. Let's say you want to support this statement by referring to previous study, or you can come up with your own opinion, for example, but make sure to have the first topic sentence first. Okay. And also, for example, here, the second one, the author described the explanation for the topic, for example, and then he came up with a statement. Few have translated this awareness into Jumali, interdisciplinary studies of the meaning home. Like, say he wants to generate a question from that. Like the first thing, explain about the topic and came up with your opinion or your question about it. Okay, instead of just, I read your proposal, I read your short essay, I read your this coming assignment. I think students tend to generate a paragraph or sentence without knowing actually the correct structure of doing it. Okay, you just do the talking, for example, without having practicing a very good structure. Like first you need to have your topic sentence, and then you need to have your discussion point, and then you have to do closing sentence. Okay, so please practice a very good structure when you are conducting or structuring a paragraph. Okay, instead of just rambling, I don't know, without a good structure. Okay, and this is another example. I want you to go back, read again my lecture note, and then try to understand the different thesis statement that I already include here. Okay, this is the same example. The polyvalency is the topic. Explain one or two sentences about the polyvalency, and then came up with, in this article, I review recent development in polyvalency and discuss the numerous opportunity, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Instead, explain about only polyvalency from the first sentence until the last sentence without clear statement is actually not good for literature review. I mean, for structuring your literature review. So you should have like clear argument about the paragraph that you are constructing. Let's say if you want to talk about polyvalency, and then the last second sentence, maybe you can talk about your opinion, your argument, your question, something like that. Always finish the paragraph with an argument sentence or question sentence, or maybe your point of view. Okay. Okay. Next, directly explain. Like in this article, we review and critique scholarship, blah, blah, blah. We begin by reviewing. Okay. The important thing I want to show here is that you should know when to use the active voice and also the passive voice for your review. Like we review, I review. So the article is reviewed by blah, blah, blah. So there is differences between active and passive voice. This type of writing is actually, there's no ideal structure. It depends on how you're going to, it depends on how you're going to write it. And also ask your supervisor whether you want to use active voice or passive voice. Some prefer to use it, active voice. I, we, in this, in our study, blah, 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 I did, blah, 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 something like that. Or I would prefer in this study will be conducted by blah, 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 something like that. So you have to know whether you want to use the active or passive voice for your literature review, right? Okay. And then you should avoid list-like structure in order to generate a good sentence or paragraph. For example, research into thesis title has emphasized the use of the colon to distinguish the thematic focus from the precise focus of the work. And then Smith, James, Webster, 1, 2, 3, 4, like 4 reference to support like your statement. I do not say this is wrong, but this is actually very old school. We do not use this type of, sentencing right now. And it is also reviewer or examiner doesn't like this type of sentencing, because you do not know which one Smith suggests, the column to distinguish the thematic focus, or which one the Webster focus is actually focused on, which part, the thesis title with the thematic focus, and how would you relate like these types of referencing with your statement. It's difficult. In my opinion, I mean, I suggest that if you want to refer to these 4 types of referencing, you should do paraphrasing of what Smith, James, Webster, and Hegelson saying about this topic or statement, right? Instead of just listing all of these reference together, okay? And you can use the, to get a very good paragraph, instead of using but, however, you can use transition words or phrases I listed down here. You can check and try to, put it into your writing, like in the first place, not to mention in the same way, first, blah, 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 second, third, or identically, equally, comparatively, if you want to do a comparison. And then you can, for opposition, limitation, and contradiction, you can use this type of phrase, like of course, but on the other hand, on the contrary, this author suggests that blah, 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 something like that. Okay. And also you can use the critical phrases for introducing question, problems, and limitation, also to address the theory or argument. So the main weakness with this theory is that what? However, there is inconsistency with this argument, and then explain what or why. Okay. The existing accounts fail to resolve the contradiction between X and Y, and then you discuss what is X, what is Y. This is to interconnected between the X and Y. Okay. And to identify study weakness. However, the author overlooked the fact that X contributes to Y, for example. Or, however, Smith makes no attempt to differentiate between different types of X. So, if you are able to, to construct this type of phrases, then your literature review would be very interesting. Okay, interesting to read. Okay. Okay, now you should know how to organize your, when you already structure your literature review, you already have your introduction. Let's say you already have your main body, you already have your conclusion. So how you are going to organize it to make it more interesting and effective. So you can use this 5 common approach to organize the body of your review: the topical, distant to close, debate, chronological, or seminal study organization. For example, the topical, it is most useful for organizing a large body of literature that does not have one or two studies that stand out as most important or a clear chronological development. Basically, for general argument. Okay, for example, 3 important areas of this field have retrieved attention, which is A, B, and C. And A has been approached from 2 perspectives, F and G. The most important development in terms of B have been what? And C has also been an important area of study in this field. Okay. For example, you have one topic, but you have 3 main points to discuss. So you discuss in a topical organization or topical order. So first you describe what are the key points, A, B, and C. So what is A? A usually has 2 perspectives, F and G. And what is B? Okay. And in terms of development, B is most important, for example. And C has also been an important area in this study as well, for example. So this is a very topical, and this is the most common approach that usually we can find in literature review structure. And you also can apply distant to close. Okay, start by describing studies with general similarity to current research and ends with study most relevant to the specific topic. Okay, let's say method or model M, which is slightly similar to current research, addresses what? And drawing upon method or model N can help what? Or this study applies the procedure used in method or model O to what? So basically, you want to discuss about, if you want to discuss about the study design or method or model, for example, that related to the current study, you can use this distant to close organization. Okay, you also can organize it in form of debate, okay, to emphasize various strands of research in which proponents of various models openly criticize one another, and it is most useful when clear opposing positions are present in the literature to argue. Okay, for example, there have been 2 distinct approaches in this problem, and you discuss what. Okay, the first model is what. The second model argue what or agrees with what. Okay, that is debate. And you can also organize your literature in a form of chronological order. Okay, for example, this subject was first studied by X, who argued or found what, and Y then modified or extend or contradicted X word by, and you should mention which date. Let's say this is 2000 and then 2010 and 2021. Our research group, okay, the research group Z represent the current state of the field. So it is organized in chronological order. Okay, this is one type. And also you can also apply the seminal study. Okay, to clearly to address groundwork for future research, basically for recommendation for future research. The most important research on this topic was the study by X when, and following X study, research fell into 2 camps. What, which is extended of the X work or your recommendation for the future work. So you can include, so you can apply this seminal study. So you have to know that this organization is not necessary to follow. Like, oh, I have to include chronological order, I have to include debate, I have to include blah, 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 blah. But this is just a strategy that I teach you to apply in your literature write-up, okay? It doesn't necessary that I mentioned until E, what, 1 to 5 approach that you want to apply this all 5 approach. It's not necessary. You may pick 1, you may pick 2, depends on which paragraph you are referring to, okay? This is just some technique that I want to show you, okay? Okay, so main body also have figures and table. Okay, aim for 1 key figure or table per section. This can be to illustrate a complex concept or summarize a large body of relevant data, describe the order of a process. So usually for the process, I refer you to describe in the form of flow diagram. Okay, instead of just one long lengthy paragraph, you can extract the data in the form of a flow diagram. Okay, it is much easier to understand, right? And legend is below the image or figure and above for the table. Okay, the table, the description is at the top, and for the figure or image, the explanation or caption is at the below. Always refer to figure and table in text. Okay, this is most, I think, a weakness for the students that may be overlooked by all of you. When you put a figure or table in the text, you need to direct the reader to the text instead of just put the text standalone in your text without explaining what is the tables actually. So you should mention as seen in table 1 or figure 1, or as summarized in table 2, blah 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 blah, something like that. Some students, I notice, just put the figure or table without a clear explanation about it. Okay, so provide a detailed legend as well, and figure and table provide a break for the reader and a chance to understand and reflect the key concept, especially when you're talking about the process. So if one lengthy paragraph talking about the process without a clear flow diagram, the reader need to take time to understand, or they may just skip that part because it's very hard to understand the writing, right? If you put it in a form of flow diagram, it is much easier to understand, okay? And it will attract your reader as well. Okay, and as for conclusion, as you already know, it is a summary of the whole body, especially for the introduction. What you say in the introduction, it reflects in your conclusion. If you suggest or your objective is A in the introduction, and you should explain whether the A is achievable or not in the conclusion, okay? Or reflect with each other. Okay, sorry for the interruption again. Sorry. Okay, so that is the conclusion. Okay. Okay, this is example. Okay, in summary, so you already make a specific summary or brief summary for the introduction and part of the your main body literature, and then the last first or two sentence you can explain about the your point of view. Like this, for example, this study is the first to directly compare blah 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 blah. So she knows, or he knows, the author knows that this study is actually the first to practice this type of design or what. Okay, that is going to be your closing sentence for your conclusion. Okay. And for standalone literature review also, we will have the abstract. For example, a systematic literature review for publication in a journal. So we will have the abstract. But for my assignment, maybe I'm not sure whether we will have abstract or not. So you should refer to the description that I give to you. And for your thesis or the RP, you do not have the abstract for the literature review. It is the literature review is actually the part of the thesis. The abstract is actually abstract for the research project, right? Okay. So for the abstract for standalone literature review for publication, usually we can follow the rule of 10. Means 10 sentences for abstract, like 1 or 2 sentences for aim, 2 or 3 sentences for materials and method, 2 or 3 sentences for the result or findings, and 2 sentences for discussion and conclusion. Okay, so in abstract, we have to keep it as brief as possible, but you need to summarize all the SLR structure in that abstract. Okay, this you can practice whenever like you want to generate systematic literature review for publication, for example, then you can practice this rule. Okay. Okay, then how you can fine tune your draft? It is by doing the revising and also the editing. Okay, there are some tips for revising after you already develop or drafting your SLR. You can check, is your title consistent with the content of your paper? Sometimes the title is very specific, but actually the literature review is not that specific. Okay, so you have to make your title consistent with the content of your literature review. And for introduction, do you appropriately introduce your review? Okay, does your review has a clear claim? And then for your body, is your organization is clear? Okay, which approach you want to apply in your body structure? You want it to be in chronological order, or you want to make in a form of topical order? Depends on your write-up. Okay, and topic sentence, have you clearly indicated the major idea for each paragraph? And transition, what is your writing flow? Is your transition is good from one paragraph to paragraph or one section to one section? Okay, and do you provide sufficient conclusion in your literature review? So you should check. And also, I think most important thing also the spelling and grammar, because we, especially for undergraduate students, they have weakness and limitation in terms of producing a very good English scientific sentence, for example. Okay, so you should check your spelling and grammar, make sure it is in correct order. Okay, I mentioned here, structuring a literature review is not easy. It's taken so much time, right? So since you have put in so many times to construct your literature review, so you have to make it perfect. You have no choice but to make it perfect, okay? Otherwise, the time that you spend is just, wasted, okay? Okay. Another tips for revising your draft is to do the editing and also proofreading, okay? It's a good academic practice. So editing is a process of continually revising and improving your written work. It is often an activity that forms a major part of the writing process. Meanwhile, proofreading is the final check before printing and submission. It is a process that helps remove errors and improve presentation. So editing usually done by you yourself before you submit to your supervisors or lecturers, and then lecturers will revise your write-up, and then it's going to be like few editing, like maybe 4 to 5 editing before you can come up with the proofreading before you submit the article. Okay, so this is done by your supervisors and your lecturers. Okay, and also proofreading is also for undergraduate, proofreading is done by your supervisor, especially for your DRP or thesis. Okay, for standalone assignment, you do not have like much editing or proofreading. Basically, you just submit. Okay, you yourself can do your own editing. Okay. Okay, for citing and referencing, if it's not your, I think citing and referencing, you already practice it during previous lectures with other lecturer, right? And in systematic review, you have to be particular and careful about citing and referencing. It is because you want to avoid the plagiarism. In systematic literature review, we have to be careful with the plagiarism. It is easy to get, caught or plagiarize some or other people's work, because we are talking about the literature review, reviewing other people's work, right? So it is you have to be careful with that. So I will show you some strategy to avoid the plagiarism. For example, by citing sources. Like if it's not your own idea or not common knowledge, so you have to document it. So you have to acknowledge it. Okay, so you can paraphrase the key idea, use quotation, okay, and use in-text citation, and also make sure that your bibliographic record or referencing list is in correct order. Okay, so there are two types of citation, the integral and non-integral. For integral, the author's name appear in the sentence. Okay, for example, Lilly's 2001 argues that blah, 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 blah. And non-integral is basically the author name appear outside the sentence. So both tutor blah, 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 which is by Lilly's. So this actually non-integral, I found it very common to be used by, by students. Okay. So citing sources, you can do in the form of quoting. Like if you want, I do not suggest for you to do quoting, because I refer you to do paraphrasing, because quoting might lead you to plagiarism. Okay, quoting means like quote some sentence points from other author in your literature, but usually I encourage you to do a paraphrasing that I already mentioned you last week, right? How to do the paraphrasing. So this is types of citing sources. And then referencing. When you cite other people, and you have to know how to make list of reference that related. Okay. And I encourage you to use the reference manager. For example, here, this is the EndNote. This is the EndNote interface. Okay, if you're familiar with EndNote or Mendeley or any other reference manager, you can use it. Okay, so it can keep all citation retrieved, instead of you just save your old PDF in one folder, and then difficult to find. Let's say if you have 100, and how would you find the article of your interest, right? So better use the reference manager. And how to write a reference. For example, here I put sources from book, journal, and also online document. Okay, for books by single author, so usually you will have the author name first, year, title of the book. So actually, this is not the formal or the actual that you have to follow, but it's actually refer to the format that that journal needed, that your supervisors needed, that university or your faculty needed. You always need to refer your faculty preference in terms of citing references. Okay, this is just example. Okay, you maybe use a Harvard style, you maybe use APA style, you maybe use a Vancouver style or any other style. But this is just most common organization of referencing for book. And this one, book more than one author. So this is the most common organization for referencing. And also you have to know the journal article citing reference, and how to do referencing from electronic sources like Nadir C. June 19, 2009, mental health issue among children, the age retrieved from this website. So if you find some interesting information from the website, you can extract the information, do paraphrasing, and then cite and then do the citing references. Okay. Okay, that's all for the citation and referencing. Now let's move on to the last part for this lecture, which is to understand the plagiarism. So what is plagiarism? It means the appropriation of another person's idea, process, results, or words without giving appropriate credit. So you have to know that plagiarism is not in terms of only, copy pasting the sentence, but you can also plagiarize the idea, the process, the result. Okay. In research, if there is some plagiarism, we call it as a misconduct in research, but in publication we call it as a plagiarism as well, in terms of copying, other people's finding. Okay. So in terms of word copying more than 4 to 6 consecutive words, rearranging phrases or paraphrasing extensively without giving credit is a plagiarism. And also there's a plagiarism of idea, like using original information learned from conferences, a conference presentation or confidential reviews. It's also plagiarism. And also from the process, adopting or using research method described by other investigator, especially when the research method is not common knowledge. And then you did not give the permission, or you did not get the author permission, or you're not giving credit, also type of plagiarism. And using or reporting data, figures, or table that represent another investigator research result, also a plagiarism. Okay. Okay, this is example number 1. Is this plagiarism? You are reading a journal article, chapter, or book, and you paraphrase the pages of text from the material you have been reading in the literature review of a manuscript you are writing. So it is plagiarism by you, to you? I do not think this is a plagiarism if, sorry?
Not plagiarism.
Yes, provided you acknowledge the author from the journal article or chapter or book that you are referring. Okay. Next, you are reviewing a submitted manuscript. You decide to use novel research method described in that manuscript to enhance your own research. May someone ask, someone answer whether this is plagiarism or not? You have any idea? Do you have any idea? It's okay, there's nothing wrong, we're just discussing.
I don't think it's plagiarism as long as he the novel research tu maksudnya dia dah publish kan doktor?
Betul. Yes. This is not a type of plagiarism because the manuscript is already submitted and this is a novel method. The submitted manuscript, the novel research is for the submitted manuscript. But if you reviewing or taking something from that manuscript, it's not going to be novel anymore for you. It's novel for that research, but it is not plagiarism, provided you acknowledge the author from the submitted manuscript. Okay, so but for your study, it is not novel anymore because it is novel for that author. Okay, but this is not wrong. Okay. And you are doing research using, this is most common what student encounter. So you are doing research using the internet. You choose to use idea from a website in the design of your next research project and also use some quotes from the website in your literature review. Is this plagiarism?
No.
Taking some sources from internet? Sorry?
I don't think it's plagiarism because it's only the ideas, not the whole.
Yes, you're right. It's only idea, not the whole. I mean, the idea could be the whole sources that you are referring, but it's actually we have referencing from electronic sources like from the internet as well. If you want to take some ideas or part of the sources from the internet, you just acknowledge it. You just cite it. Okay. For example, adapted from which part and which part, which website, right? You should mention that in your referencing list or bibliography. Okay, number 4. You are writing a paper in English and your native language is Malay. When writing a review of literature, you use another author's exact word because you are not confident about paraphrasing or synthesizing the ideas into your own word in English. So, may someone explain this?
I think it's referred to your previous lecture, not about the copying not more than 4 words, something like that, because it's only like, you know, exact word, not like a whole sentence. So
Okay.
I don't think it's plagiarism.
Okay. Other student have different opinion? Faiz Faiz. Kan?
Yes, saya.
Yeah. Other student have different opinion than Faiz? Or agree? Can you do argument here?
I think it's plagiarism because it stated that using the exact words or like synthesizing the idea into your own words in English.
Yes. It's actually a types of plagiarism. What Faiz understand is that if we copy like 4 to 6, it's actually if you copy like 4 to 6, it's already plagiarism. But if you are not actually the native for English, because you do not know how to do English sentence, you just copy all those author sentence. It could be plagiarism, provided you know, and without mentioning, without acknowledging the author as well. It does not necessarily like copying 4 to 6. I mean, 4 to 6 consecutive sentence, like almost half paragraph that you extract from other paper and you put into your write-up. That is plagiarism. Copying author exact words also is a plagiarism if you do not acknowledge the author and you do not rephrase it. Okay, Faiz, understand or not?
Yes, betul, yes.
Thank you for your participation. Okay, this is the weakness of like we Malays. We tend to we do not want to think and spend so much time constructing a very good scientific sentence. Instead, we just copy and paste and then we rephrase. Sometimes, if you rephrase, if you use the Quillbot or you use Turnitin, plagiarism checker is already. I will show the example. Turnitin also can detect the similarity of the sentence, even if you rephrase it. Okay? When you rephrase it, it does not mean that you are not plagiarized. You have to know that you need to gather like 3 different types of information and then rephrase it into one sentence. That is rephrasing. Instead of you just you found one good sentence and then I want to rephrase it this sentence. That is plagiarism, even when you acknowledge the author. If you acknowledge the author, it's much more easier to detect the plagiarism. Okay. Okay, the last one. You are writing a manuscript for publication that is based upon your own previous research. You decide to include some exact text from one of your earlier manuscript in the paper. So is that plagiarism? Like citing your own project? Can someone explain?
My opinion, plagiarism juga.
You think it's plagiarism? So actually, the situation is like this. You have your one publication before. You want to do literature review. You want to cite your paper in your current literature review. I don't think it is more like a self plagiarize, right? But if the research is totally different, you can take like information from your previous paper into your new literature review. But if the research or the literature review is the same topic as the first one, then you cannot cite your previous manuscript. For example, you have one research, you already have one paper, but you send it to journal A, and you want to generate another paper, same topic, but you want to send it to journal B. No, you cannot extract the same exact text from that manuscript to your new manuscript because it is almost the same topic, for example, but it is different topic, different types of publication. Then you can cite, meaning citing your own finding, but you have to be extra careful. It could be yourself plagiarize. Okay, let's say you already send it to one conference and you want to send another almost similar topic to another journal, or you want to send it for a conference, maybe other conference. It could be self plagiarize. Okay, always check. Always use a plagiarism checker. Like, okay, I will show you plagiarism checker after this. Okay, how to avoid the plagiarism. Okay, so because you are referring using the electronic sources, electronic database or your library database, so the digital form increase the possibility of maybe you could accidentally use someone else's material or someone else's idea or someone else's findings, without you acknowledge it. Okay, so citation and referencing should be proper. Okay, you should be extra careful with referencing. Some students may overlook the importance of doing bibliography or referencing. Okay, but it's actually important because if you want to submit your article to journal, the first thing they check is the Turnitin, the similarity of your article with the internet source. Like if below, like more than 50% similarity, it's already rejected. Okay, some supervisor may use the Turnitin. I have my Turnitin tools. It's easy. I just key in all your write-up, and then the Turnitin will generate how many similarity of your article to internet source or to this paper and so on. Okay, most of the lecturers or supervisor have that plagiarism checker. Okay, we want to jaga our standard as academician. We do not want our student to involve in plagiarism or fabrication, basically for high degree like masters or for PhDs. But for undergraduate, we understand the limitation that they have because this is the first time they're doing GRP or thesis or literature review and so on. But if you get like a very strict supervisor, then you have to bear with it. Okay, so giving appropriate credit refers to providing the name of original author or researcher or scholar, and providing sufficient publication data that another person can find the original source, and using also quotation symbol to indicate a direct quote if you're quoting someone idea or facts in the paper, okay, or any source. Okay, there are strategies. The first one, you can do quotation, quoting other people sentence or idea, but make sure you acknowledge it or cite it. And you can also do the paraphrasing and also the summaries. So these two I already teach you last week about how to do the effective summarizing and also paraphrasing, right? So you should be able to practice it in your writing in order to avoid the plagiarism. Okay. Yes, here. And how to detect the plagiarism. So basically, when you have your write-up ready, so you need to have your readers or reviewers to evaluate your write-up, right? Let's say my suggestion, like if you want to, before you submit like to your supervisor, you may have your friends like to evaluate first your write-up, right? But I believe that you do not have time to do that. provided that you have a brother or sister which is academician, you can ask them to evaluate it for you. Like when they read it, they understand like, I think this is adapted from somewhere, but you do not acknowledge it. And I think this reference is not tally with the body text, for example. So they also can be your plagiarism detector. And of course, your the reader can be your supervisor and also can be your reviewers as well. Okay, and also check the referencing as well. That's why I'm suggesting you to use the referencing manager. Okay, and you can Google, like you can copy paste your sentence in Google, and you can look which website they direct you if you plagiarize from internet source, right? And also the most effective one is using the plagiarism detection tool. This Turnitin is very popular and easy to use. You can buy the license, berapa ringgit, 12 ringgit, 20 ringgit from the Shopee for 2 to 3 days, for example. I'm not sure, but mine is free under university. Okay. So you can use the Turnitin, you can turn in your write-up, and then it will generate similarity index, let's say from the internet source, similar with other paper or other journal or other publication as well. Okay, so I forgot to put the result for Turnitin, but it's very good to check. Okay. For plagiarism, for undergraduate student, for your FYP, you need to understand that we reviewer or supervisor not so strict about the novelty of your research, to avoid the misconduct of your research. But at least if you can like do slightly modification of your research and your literature review as well, it is fine for us. Plagiarism is much more a big issue when it comes to the higher degree students, for example, masters or PhD students, whenever they want to publish their article in a journal. Okay, that's going to be a big issue. Okay, as a summary for the structuring the SLR, so as you read, as you do a literature search, you try to see the bigger picture, right, of your literature review, that it should provide an overview of the state of the research. Okay, when you yourself read through your literature review, you yourself can understand what the literature review is about. Okay, if you do not understand, so other people would, difficult to understand as well. Okay, so include only those source material that help you shape your argument and resist the temptation to include everything you've read. I know some students tend to put everything, things that they think is actually needed to be put in the literature review, but it's actually redundant. Okay, make sure to pick only interest topic that related to your review only, and you need to balance the summary and analysis as you write, and keep in your mind purpose of writing and how will this review benefit readers, and how does review contributing to your study, and be meticulous about your citation and referencing. Okay, it's actually one part I added just now. I want to show you what is the challenges in the writing process. Okay, there are pitfalls in SLR writing. The vagueness, because putting too much or inappropriate generalization, it can be too redundant for your literature review, and limited range. Let's say you have a big topic, but you do not fully utilize how to explain about the topic in general, and insufficient information. Maybe for your DRP, you only pick like 5 referencing. when examiner look at your referencing list, bibliography, and so on, we can assume that this is not good information source or insufficient of information, and also putting so many irrelevant material which is not related, and the exclusion of contrasting view or omitting of the recent work. Okay, basically for literature review, I suggest you to use this. If you do, you cannot avoid if you do the chronological organization, right? Maybe you want to refer like previous 20 years research, but as for thematical or topical organization, it's better to use like within 5 years, or research work. And the last one is common errors in SLR writing. It's raining heavily right now in my house. If you cannot, hear me clearly, you just tell me. But this is our last slide. Okay. So many students hurrying through to start reviewing without knowing the exact structure or the exact strategy. So you could miss something that will improve your research. So before you start writing, actually, if you learn like my topic earlier, you can practice the reading strategy, the structuring SLR strategy, and also the writing strategy, right? But I understand it's okay. You can use it like for next year. And also some relying too heavily upon secondary sources instead of the primary sources, and also relying too much on the internet sources as well. Okay, and also concentrating on findings rather than method. Some forget that method is actually contribute to construct an effective SLR as well. So you need to focus on the study design that has been proposed before as well. And some of you may be overlooking sources other than academic journal. You can refer to the newspapers, to the scientific magazine, or any sources that which is legal to be cited. Okay, and searching too broad or too narrow of a topic, and also inaccuracy in the compiling of bibliography and also the information needed in your literature review. Okay, so you go back and then try to read again my lecture notes for today and try to practice it in your writing, and then try to avoid the common errors in SLR writing. Okay, so that's all for today.